thinking in English is impossible. And if you've been trying to do it, well, that might be exactly why you can't speak fluently yet. I know this because I've been teaching English for over 10 years, and almost everyone I've worked with had the same misunderstanding. They believed that fluency meant learning to think in English. Well, it doesn't. In this video, I'll explain what's actually going on in your brain, why so much common advice keeps you stuck, and what actually works to move you from understanding English to speaking it naturally. So what's actually going on when people say, I want to think in English? Well, they're usually mixing up three different things. First, there's thinking itself. Second, there's the internal monologue, that little voice in your head. And third, there's translating from your language into English. Now, we'll come back to the second and third because that's where fluency is really won or lost. But first, we need to clear up the biggest misunderstanding. We don't think in English. In fact, we don't think in any language. Thought comes first and language comes after, as a tool that we use to express those thoughts. Think about the phrase, I can't find the words to express how I feel. Now, that means that the feeling was already there. What's missing is the language. And that's how thinking works. Now, imagine you're in your house and you open the front door. I want you to visualize the route to your local shop or supermarket. Go on. Now, did you need words to do that, or did you just see the route? Now, if you want to tell me how to get there, you go left, you go straight on, then you need language. See? Thoughts first, then language. So stop trying to think in English. That's not the skill. When people say, I want to think in English, what they really mean is, I want my thoughts to turn into English without translation. If you have to go thought into your language, then translate into English, it makes your English slow, stilted, and awkward. That extra step is what kills fluency. So we can agree that translating from your language is bad for fluency. It's much better if you can go directly from thought to English. That's the real problem. And this is where most advice on YouTube goes a bit wrong. Like, change your phone settings to English. Imagine you're a native speaker. Just think in English. And before you know it, as if by magic, you'll be thinking in English. See the problem? How do I think in English? Just think in English? It's weak advice. It's like saying, I want to learn the guitar. Whoa, just stop thinking about notes and chords, man. Just imagine you're Jimi Hendrix. Just play. Yeah, but what do I do with my fingers? Shh, Hendrix. Think in English is the result we want. It's not the method. Now, the other advice is to narrate your day in English. Now, this one can help, but only if you understand how to train it. And we're going to come back to it in a minute. But first, how do you actually stop translating? Well, you don't stop translating by trying to stop. You stop translating by getting good enough that translation becomes unnecessary. When you're a beginner, you have to translate every word. It's not a bad habit. It's the only way to learn. As you improve, like, simple phrases start to come out automatically. You still pause on the complex ideas, that's normal. And eventually, when your brain has enough experience, you just speak. And that's fluency. The problem is trying to skip this process. When you try to force fluency too early, that's when you create anxiety and hesitation and self-doubt, and that actually slows everything down. But this doesn't mean you just wait and hope fluency magically appears. You can accelerate the process by deliberately training output in the right way. So don't worry, I'm not just going to tell you, oh, just learn English and leave you there. What does help is training the right skills at the right stage. And this is especially important if you're stuck at that horrible intermediate level where you can understand English, but speaking still feels really hard. Now, when it comes to training these language skills, the best top secret way that everyone's talking about, as if it was a new thing, even though it's been around for like 40 years, is comprehensible input. If you don't know about comprehensible input, it's a theory that explains how we really acquire languages. Now, the theory says that you get input, basically read books, watch YouTube videos, listen to music. You understand like 90% of what's going on, and the new bits get understood by context and absorbed magically into your brain. And yeah, it's a viral concept because you don't have to study grammar anymore. Sounds amazing, right? But if something sounds too good to be true, then it probably is. So what's the catch? Well, consuming input is like watching fitness influencers doing squats. You understand what good form looks like, but if you never go to the gym, nothing changes. Well, it's the same for your English. If you don't actually practice speaking, you'll be stuck like forever. So this incentivization of input, combined with the fact that as a society we're all consuming more content, means that we're all out of balance. You're overtrained in understanding and undertrained in producing. To unlock your English brain, you need the input plus output. That's the missing ingredient. And we need to get your output pumping. Here's what to do. I'll split it into 3 levels. You can do it all on your own. No speaking partner needed. Level 1 output is the easiest to do. Even if you're super nervous, like introverted, or if you've got nobody to talk to. And that's to use the internal monologue we talked about. It's just like having a conversation with yourself in your head, narrating your thought process or describing a situation silently. Now, it's difficult to imagine what's happening inside someone else's head, but some people naturally hear a constant inner voice, like a real life Jiminy Cricket. Some people hear it occasionally, and for others, they've never heard it, and the whole thing sounds weird. Me, for example, it's pretty quiet up there. Now, some might say there's not a lot going on, but I think it's all good and normal. So the internal monologue isn't how everyone naturally thinks, but it is a trainable output that is one way of practicing English. So I'll show you how I do it because I mentioned it was difficult to stick to. Like if I'm practicing French, I start narrating my day in my head, and about an hour later, I realized I narrated for about 30 seconds and then got distracted. It's a bit like meditation. If you've ever tried meditating, you get distracted and start thinking about weird shit. So you can do this in your head if you're in the shower or waiting for the bus or whatever, and you've got some spare time. But if I were you, I'd try to structure it a bit, like set a timer for 5 minutes, sit down, concentrate, kids. Imagine you're getting ready for bed. Like you put your pajamas on and you think, I know, I'll do a little bit of internal monologue. I'm going to describe my day. Great. So you just think back to when you woke up and describe everything that happened in as much detail as you can. Now, this comes to some people easier than others. So just to make sure, in case like me, you're not a natural, you can't just think about it. You actually have to say the words to yourself in your head. Like this. I wake up. I leave house. I get bus. I go work. No. You need to choose your words carefully. Correct grammar if possible. And you even need to focus on things like your pronunciation and accent, or imitating your favourite native speakers, like this. I had a piece of toast, it was a bit soggy, and I rushed for the bus. I left the house and it was pouring with rain, and I thought, oh God, good old England. Good job I grabbed my umbrella. If I hadn't, I would have been soaked to the skin. Now, you wouldn't think you could practice pronunciation and accent in your head, but it's a super opportunity to practice those little things that you feel silly or self-conscious saying out loud. But like I said, it does need a bit of practice and discipline so you don't get distracted. So set some time aside, settle in, maybe set a timer. Level 2, I'm going to call this thought experiment. Now, I know I said we don't think in words and grammar, but it is possible to use language, English in this case, to do some explicit thinking or thought clarification. And this can be really juicy for your English skills. Have you ever been dealing with a problem in your life, like a big decision that you had to make, or a serious disagreement with a friend or family member? When you face this kind of problem, sometimes the more you think about it, the less you know what to do. Until you tell someone, until you explain the situation. Turns out that talking is actually a good way to think. Explaining a problem to a friend forces you to organize those confusing thoughts as you translate them into words, whatever the language. I find that during the process of converting my chaotic thoughts into words, everything becomes clear. It's like you've got a big mess in your head, but to be able to tell someone else, you've got to clear it up a bit first. And that gets you a double benefit. 1, you get to practice your speaking skills. But 2, you get to solve whatever problem you are facing. So you can do this with a friend or talk to a tree. They're generally good listeners. But this is why teaching something is one of the best ways to learn. So level 3 for spicing up your output, try teaching English to someone, especially if it's a concept you're not 100% sure of yourself. But do it properly, like design a little lesson plan and think, how can I explain this to someone who's struggling? This was how I learned English grammar, through years of teaching it and answering my students' questions and problems. Even the act of making the lesson plan forces you to clarify your thinking. But when you teach it, of course, you get those double benefits, yo. So do you know anyone who wants to learn English? It could be a family member or someone who's at the same level as you. You just say, hey, I've been learning about the past perfect. Can I teach you for 15 minutes? And if you don't want to teach English to your granny, you could even record yourself, YouTube style. Just record yourself on your phone. I'm recording this on my phone. You don't have to post it or anything. Although you could. Hey, you might go viral. I always encourage students to teach and record themselves. If you are going to post it, just be honest. Say, well, this is what I've been learning. If you're struggling with X, you might find it useful. Like, comment, subscribe. I think that's how it's done. So use teaching as a tool of learning. That's another way to think in English. But remember, fluency isn't thinking in English. It's thinking once and speaking without fear. And if you haven't got a speaking partner, that's not an excuse. And in this video, I show you the exact structured system you can use to train on your own to get speaking with confidence and fluency fast. What do you think of that?